Some of Bangkok's most popular places to stay in are actually the worst for tourists. I've lived in Bangkok for 5 years now, and I've seen some of these areas turn into overcrowded tourist traps with scam artists lurking on every corner. In this video, I'll show you where you absolutely need to avoid staying in Bangkok, the mistakes most tourists make when choosing a place to stay, as well as some places that I would actually recommend. Let's start with the areas that you should absolutely avoid. These are the parts of town where you're most likely to get scammed or beaten up, with the least to offer culturally or historically, as well as having some of the grimiest hotels in town. Bangkok has a reputation as a sleazy city, but after 5 years of living here, I can honestly say that's not the case. Bangkok is a city with amazing temples, stunning natural landmarks, and some of the best food in the world. But then, there's Bangkok's red light districts. Whilst I kind of get the attraction to visit these areas to see what they're all about, I really don't think you actually want to book a hotel here. The main issue is that they're some of the least safe areas of town. Just recently, there was a gruesome video that went viral of 2 British tourists who refused to pay their bar tab because they believe they're being overcharged. They were taken outside and beaten up by security. And the video ended with one of the bouncers kicking the tourist in the head, knocking him out cold, and leaving him with severe head injuries. But also, because it is a red light district, don't expect the best of what Bangkok has to offer. The people who like to come here aren't interested in quality street food or Buddhist temples. Rooms can be rented by the hour, if you know what I mean. So if you stay here, you might want to bring some earplugs. The worst areas of town for this are around Nana Plaza and Pat Pong districts, and I would avoid staying here at all costs. Bangkok is a huge city, and this makes it extremely difficult to choose the perfect place to stay, especially for first-time visitors. On top of that, Bangkok isn't a particularly well-organized city with a traditional city center, and some of the more interesting parts of the town are actually spread out far away from each other. And this misunderstanding leads people to choose this part of the city, which is one of the most boring places to stay in the whole of Bangkok. At first glance on a map, it appears that this area is the center of the city. On top of that, it has one of the most recognizable names of any location in Bangkok, one that evokes ideas of a rich history and an ancient kingdom. The problem is, though, that despite its links to Thailand's ancient past, this area actually lacks any real Thai culture, and has now become an area for overpriced shopping malls and international brands. The area shares its name with the ancient kingdom of Siam, and in the past this was the location of some of the royal palaces, but is now home to the shopping mall known as Siam Paragon, which isn't even the best mall in the city. There are far more interesting places to stay in Bangkok, and personally, I think the only advantage of staying here is that it's near the BTS line, meaning you have easy access to other more interesting parts of the city. Now I want to focus on parts of the city that I actually do recommend and you should definitely consider staying in, but I also want to look at why they might not be perfect for you. There is one area of Bangkok that is known for its metropolitan vibe, that has the best nightlife in the city and is extremely well connected to other parts of town. This area is known for having some of the best restaurants in the city, as chefs have flown in from all over the world to open restaurants here. It's also known for its amazing sky bars, which are the best places in the city to go watch the sunset. It's also one of the safest areas of the city. There's pretty much no such thing as scam artists here because they know that most people exploring this area of town aren't tourists and therefore won't fall for their tricks. The area is known as Sukhumvit Road, and the area that stretches from Asok to Tonglo is the cosmopolitan heart of the city. But there's a catch. Whilst this area is an excellent choice in so many ways, it falls short in traditional Thai culture. And it's actually far away from landmarks such as Yaowarat Road, Wat Arun, the Grand Palace, and the Chao Phraya River. In fact, I would recommend that most first-time visitors to the city do not stay in this part of town. There is one area of town that undoubtedly has the most important cultural landmarks in the entire city. This area is like a living postcard of Bangkok, and it's home to the Grand Palace, the reclining Buddha, and some of the most important temples in the whole city. Staying here not only gives you easy access to these sites, but it also gives you a completely different perspective of these places, as the crowds disappear at night and the place lights up. This area is the VIP lounge of Bangkok, and it's home to some of the most luxurious hotels in the entire city. For romantic getaways, the best views in the entire city are those overlooking Wat Arun, where you can stand on your balcony and watch it light up at night. Not only that, but it also contains the Chao Phraya River, which presents a much more serene and beautiful side of the city. Forget the sound of honking horns and tuk-tuks. You can wake up to a much more peaceful atmosphere on the Chao Phraya River and watch as this unique way of life unfolds each day. However, there's one thing that this area of town is really lacking, and it's one thing that thousands of people come to the city each day to experience, and it's the nightlife. Believe it or not, monks are not big drinkers, so naturally the nightlife areas are situated far away from these temples. There are a handful of bars and restaurants nearby overlooking the river, however nothing to the same extent that exists on Sukhumvit, Chinatown or Khao San Road. On top of that, This area is one of the more touristy parts of town, and that means you're a lot more likely to get hassled to buy souvenirs and more likely to get tricked by scam artists. The next location is one of the most historically iconic locations in the city. It's an excellent choice for first-time visitors because there's so much to explore and experience. This area is home to some fascinating temples that are much less explored than those on the riverside, and differ a bit from the traditional Thai temple style. Wat Mangkong, for example, showcases the influence of Chinese culture on the region, and the Golden Mount has a stunning golden tower overlooking the city. But for me, the main reason to stay here is that this area is the best area of town to experience Bangkok street food. Overrated Road is today the center of street food culture, and in the space of just a few hundred meters, there are thousands of street food stands, each with their own unique dish. Personally, I could spend weeks exploring this area, trying different dishes. However, if you're the kind of person who isn't adventurous when it comes to eating, or you have dietary restrictions, this is not the place for you. You'll find it quite difficult to get hold of any vegetarian food or Western dishes in this part of town. On top of that, Overrated Road is one of the most hectic places that you'll ever experience on Earth, and it can easily overwhelm you. At night, the streets fill up with people, motorbikes, and tuk-tuks, and it can be a lot to take in. I know there's a lot of people who are quite intimidated by visiting Bangkok for the first time, and they would find this overwhelming. This is Bangkok at its most intense. Did you come to Thailand to be surrounded by other tourists? Do you want to be hassled by scam artists every 20 seconds? Do you want to miss out on the city's best sights in favor of a more gimmicky and touristy part of town? No? Sounds like a nightmare, right? Well, I've actually just described the most popular place to stay in the whole of Bangkok, a place where thousands of tourists flock to every single day, and is by far the most overrated place to stay in the entire city. In the past, this used to be an important part of the city for any backpacker. In the 70s and 80s, this became the backpacker hub of Southeast Asia. However, in the modern day, it's just not necessary to stay here to meet other backpackers. On top of that, this area has become more and more commercialized and gimmicky. By that, I mean it's now a place to buy cheap, tacky t-shirts and souvenirs. It's not that close to areas of town that are actually worth exploring, meaning that you'll have to spend a lot of time in a taxi or a tuk-tuk. But beware, this is another area notorious for tuk-tuk scams. The one thing this area is famous for is for its nightlife. But even then, I think there are far better parts of the city to enjoy it. The thing I dislike the most about the area is that every single bar, market stall or stand each has their own speaker that they each blast music out of. So not only can you not hear what the person next to you is saying, you also can't even hear the music that's being played because it's competing with the speaker next to it. You also have to be aware of your surroundings at all times. It's literally just one skinny road that gets extremely crowded at night, and obviously everyone's been drinking. It's a pickpocket's dream, and it's the area where things are most likely to kick off. The area is known as Khao San Road, and it's one of the most famous parts of Bangkok. It's the kind of place I would have loved in my early 20s, and it's possibly worth checking out for a night, but if you want to experience the real Bangkok, there are plenty better places in the city to stay. But before you can choose a place to stay in Bangkok, you need to learn about the most common mistake tourists make when visiting Thailand, one that can completely ruin your whole trip. Check out this video here to learn how to avoid it.